Every night, something strange happens. We close our eyes, fall asleep, and suddenly find ourselves in a completely different world. A world where the rules of reality no longer apply. We can fly. We can talk to people who are long gone. We can end up in places we've never been. Sometimes these stories feel so real that after waking up, it takes a few seconds to realize it was just a dream. But a curious question arises. Why does our brain even create dreams? Every night, billions of people on Earth dream. But despite thousands of years of thought and decades of scientific research, scientists still haven't found a single answer. What is a dream, really? Is it random brain activity? Hidden desires, as Sigmund Freud talked about? Messages from the depths of the unconscious, as Carl Jung believed? Or do dreams serve a completely different purpose related to memory and emotions, as modern neuroscientists suggest? Every night, our brain creates entire stories, sometimes scary, sometimes amazingly beautiful, and sometimes so strange that they can't be explained by logic. And there's another amazing fact. When we sleep and dream, our brain can be almost as active as when a person is awake. But if that's the case, an even more puzzling question arises. If the brain rests during sleep, then why does it create a whole world inside our head? To answer that question, we first need to understand one important thing. What exactly happens to our brain when we fall asleep? To understand what dreams are, we first need to understand what happens to our brain when we sleep. Many people think that sleep is just a state where the brain shuts down and rests. But modern research shows that it's much more complex than that. In reality, sleep is a very active and complex process that involves different parts of the brain. During sleep, our brain goes through several stages. First, we enter light sleep. At this point, the body starts to relax, breathing slows down, and brain activity gradually changes. Then a person falls into deeper stages of sleep. During this time, the body recovers, cells renew, and the brain begins to process information gathered throughout the day. But the most interesting stage of sleep comes later. It's called REM sleep, the rapid eye movement stage. During REM sleep, something amazing happens. A person's eyes start to move quickly under their closed eyelids. The heart starts to beat faster. Brain activity sharply increases. Some scientists even say that at this moment the brain works almost as actively as it does when we're awake. It's in this phase that the most vivid and emotional dreams usually happen. But there's another strange thing. Despite high brain activity, a person's body is practically paralyzed during REM sleep. Muscles temporarily shut down. This is a protective mechanism that prevents a person from physically acting out what's happening in their dreams. Imagine what would happen if this mechanism didn't exist. A person might start moving, running, or even fighting in their sleep, acting out the events of their dreams. So the brain seems to block the body, allowing the mind to dive into the world of dreams, but keeping the body safe. But even understanding how sleep works, we still haven't answered the main question. Why does the brain create dreams at all? Why does it need to create strange stories, images, and symbols every night? To answer this question, we need to look at one of the most famous theories about dreams. A theory proposed by one of the most influential psychologists in history. Even though Carl Jung started his scientific career working with Sigmund Freud, and for a while was even seen as his closest student, over time their ideas about how the human mind works started to really differ. In this book, Freud shared an idea that, at the time, seemed almost shocking. He said that dreams aren't just random pictures or meaningless thoughts from our brain. He believed that every dream has a secret meaning. Freud thought that the human mind has several levels. There's the conscious mind. That's the part of our mind we're aware of. It's our thoughts, decisions, logic, and attention. But underneath the conscious mind, Freud believed there's a much deeper part of the mind. He called it the unconscious. In the unconscious, Freud believed, are stored hidden desires, fears, memories, emotions that a person doesn't want to admit. In daily life, the conscious mind controls how a person acts. It works like a kind of filter. This filter stops many urges from coming out. For example, a person might feel envy, anger, or strong desires that society thinks are not okay. So they learn to push them down. But Freud said that these pushed-down desires don't just go away. They keep living in the unconscious and look for a way to show themselves. And one of those ways is through dreams. When a person falls asleep, the conscious mind's control gets weaker. The logical part of the brain becomes less active. And at this moment, the unconscious gets a chance to show itself. According to Freud, that's why images linked to our hidden desires and inner struggles can appear in dreams. But an important question comes up. If dreams really show desires, why do they often look strange and not make sense? Why do absurd things happen in dreams? Why do events change, characters turn into each other, and the story can be completely confusing? Freud explained this with a process he called dream work. He believed that unconscious thoughts can't just show up directly. Even in dreams, the mind keeps protecting a person from urges that are too strong or upsetting. So the unconscious uses symbols. Desires are hidden, turning into pictures, metaphors, and strange stories. For example, one image in a dream might stand for a completely different thought or feeling. Freud talked about two levels of what a dream means. He called the first level the manifest content. This is what a person actually sees in the dream, the events, the characters, the actions. But behind this level, Freud believed, is the latent content. These are the real thoughts, desires and feelings that the mind has changed into a symbolic form. That's why Freud thought that to understand a dream, you need to interpret it. He tried to look at patients' dreams and find the hidden psychological problems in them. For example, dreams that happened over and over could point to inner stress or feelings that were pushed down. Sometimes dreams could show fears or problems that hadn't been solved. This idea had a huge impact on psychology and culture in the 20th century. The thought that dreams can show the hidden parts of a person became popular not just among psychologists, but also among writers, artists and thinkers. However, over time, many scientists started to wonder, can all dreams really be explained only by hidden desires? Some researchers believed that dreams do much more complicated things. They might be connected to memory, emotions, and how the brain works. And among those who offered a completely different way of looking at dreams was a man who was once seen as Freud's student. His name was Carl Jung. Even though Carl Jung started his scientific journey with Sigmund Freud and was even seen as his closest student for a while, their ideas about how the human mind works started to drift apart over time. Freud thought dreams were mostly about hidden desires, but Jung felt this idea was too narrow to understand the human mind. Jung believed that dreams couldn't just be about hidden desires. He argued that dreams have a much more complex job. Jung said that dreams are the natural language of the unconscious. In other words, through dreams, the unconscious part of our mind tries to talk to our conscious mind. To get this idea, Jung suggested thinking of the human mind as a system with two levels. The first level is consciousness. This is the part of our mind we know about, our thoughts, decisions, plans, and logical thinking. But under this level is a much deeper area, the unconscious. Jung thought the unconscious doesn't just hold forgotten memories or hidden desires. It's a huge and active part of the mind that constantly watches a person's inner state. It keeps track of our fears, our inner struggles, our hidden emotions, our wants and doubts. And sometimes, when our conscious mind ignores important signs, the unconscious tries to get our attention. And one of the main ways it does this is through dreams. Jung said that dreams often act as a way to balance things out. This means a dream can help bring the mind back into balance. For example, if someone is too logical in real life and ignores their feelings, their dreams might show strong emotional pictures. If someone tries to push down fears or inner worries, these might show up in dreams as symbols. Sometimes dreams are like a mirror, showing a person a part of themselves they try not to see. Jung believed that dreams can be like a mirror to our inner world. They don't just show problems, but also possible ways for a person to grow. But Jung's most famous and unusual idea is about his theory of the collective unconscious. Jung thought that people don't just have a personal unconscious, which is about their own experiences. There's also a deeper part of the mind that everyone shares. He called it the collective unconscious. Jung believed that this part of the mind holds old images and symbols that have been around for thousands of years of human history. He called these universal images archetypes. Archetypes can be found in myths, legends, religions, and old stories from different cultures. For example, the hero archetype, the wise person archetype, the mother archetype, the shadow archetype. Jung thought that these archetypal images can also show up in dreams. That's why people sometimes dream of strange figures, symbolic characters, or unusual situations that remind them of old myths. What's interesting is that people from different cultures sometimes describe very similar dreams. Jung believed this could be explained by the existence of the collective unconscious. He said that dreams shouldn't be taken literally. Dreams talk to people in symbols. This language isn't always logical or straightforward. Sometimes one image can mean a completely different emotion or inner struggle. So, Jung believed that analyzing dreams can help a person understand themselves better. Dreams can point to hidden problems, inner conflicts, or even parts of a person's personality that they haven't realized yet. But despite how deep Freud's and Jung's psychological ideas are, an important question remains. What happens in the brain, biologically speaking, when we dream? Why does the brain start creating whole worlds, stories and images while we sleep? To answer this question, modern scientists started studying dreams from a neuroscience point of view, and their explanation turned out to be completely different. In the 20th and 21st centuries, scientists began to study dreams not only from a psychological point of view, but also with the help of neurobiology. Thanks to brain scanning technologies, researchers were able to observe which specific areas of the brain are activated during sleep. And the results turned out to be very interesting. When a person is in REM sleep, the brain works much more actively than scientists previously thought. Some areas of the brain responsible for emotions and images become especially active. For example, the limbic system, the part of the brain associated with emotions, fear and memory, becomes highly activated. This is why dreams are often very emotional. Sometimes in a dream, a person can experience strong fear, joy or anxiety, even if the events of the dream seem strange or illogical. But there's another important detail. At the same time, the area of the brain responsible for rational thinking, the prefrontal cortex, works much less. This explains why in a dream we rarely ask ourselves the question, why is something so strange happening? The logical part of the brain temporarily reduces its activity. That's why the most unusual events in a dream seem completely normal to us. Modern scientists also believe that dreams can play an important role in processing information and memory. For example, studies show that during sleep, the brain actively sorts information received throughout the day. Some memories are stored, others, on the contrary, gradually disappear. This process helps the brain organize and arrange the huge flow of information. One of the well-known modern sleep researchers is Matthew Walker. He believes that dreams help the brain process emotional experiences. During sleep, the brain seems to review the events of the day and helps a person cope with stress or strong emotions. There is also another scientific theory proposed by sleep researcher Alan Hobson. It's called the activation synthesis theory. According to this theory, during REM sleep, the brain generates random electrical signals. Then the brain tries to interpret these signals, creating a story from them. Essentially, the brain seems to gather fragments of neuron activity and turn them into the plot of a dream. This explains why dreams are often strange, illogical, and unexpected. However, even modern scientific theories don't give a final answer. Some scientists believe that dreams help the brain practice reactions to dangerous situations. Others suggest that dreams can be a way of modeling future events. And although today we know much more about sleep than 100 years ago, the mystery of dreams still remains one of the most interesting secrets of the human brain. But then another amazing question arises. Why do some dreams seem so vivid and realistic that we remember them for years, while others disappear from memory just a few minutes after waking up? One of the weirdest things about dreams is how fast they disappear from our memory. Almost everyone has experienced this. Sometimes we wake up and remember a dream perfectly, every little detail, every feeling. But just a few minutes go by and the dream starts to fade. An hour later, only bits and pieces are left. And after a few hours, a person might completely forget they even had a dream. Why does this happen? Modern studies show that it's all about how our brain works. When someone is in REM sleep, the parts of the brain that handle feelings and pictures are very active. But at the same time, the part of the brain that makes long-term memories is much less active. Because of this, most dreams just don't stick in our memory. They're like they pass through our mind and then disappear. There's another interesting thing too. During sleep, the level of some brain chemicals like norepinephrine goes way down. This chemical signal is super important for making memories. When its level is low, it's harder for the brain to turn dream events into long-term memories. That's why even the most vivid dreams can be forgotten quickly. But then another question comes up. Why do some dreams stay in our memory? Scientists think we're more likely to remember dreams if they're linked to strong feelings. For example, fear, surprise, joy, or worry. Emotions make a dream seem more important to the brain. And then there's a better chance it will stay in our memory. There's one more interesting point. People are more likely to remember dreams if they wake up right during the REM phase. In this case, the dream is still fresh in their mind, and the brain has time to hold on to it. But if someone keeps sleeping, new sleep stages can slowly erase the previous dream from memory. That's why sometimes it feels like we don't dream at all. But actually, almost everyone has several dreams every night. It's just that most of them disappear before we even realize we had them. But among all these forgotten dreams, sometimes there are ones that seem especially vivid and unusual. Dreams that stay in our memory for years. Dreams that make a person think. And this is where another mystery comes up. Why do some dreams feel so real and deep that they can affect our mood, thoughts, and even decisions in real life? Sometimes a dream feels so real and vivid that after waking up, a person keeps thinking about it for a long time. Some dreams can bring up strong feelings. Sometimes a person wakes up feeling worried. Sometimes with a strange sense of calm or inspiration. But an interesting question comes up. Can dreams really affect our lives? New studies show that to some extent, yes, they can. While we sleep, our brain keeps working hard with the information it got during the day. It looks at events, feelings, and experiences. That's why many scientists think that dreams can help people deal with emotional experiences. For example, if a person is feeling stressed, worried, or has an inner conflict, the brain might play out different situations in a dream. This helps the mind slowly get used to tough situations. Studies also show that sleep is very important for learning and memory. Some experiments have shown that people remember information better if they sleep after learning it. During sleep, the brain seems to rewrite new knowledge into long-term memory. But the effect of dreams can also show up in other ways. Sometimes in a dream, the brain connects ideas that didn't seem related when awake. This can lead to sudden new ideas. In the history of science and art, there are famous examples where people got ideas in their dreams. For example, the chemist Auguste Kekulé said that the structure of the benzene molecule came to him after a strange dream where he saw a snake biting its own tail. This image gave him the idea of the molecule's ring shape. These stories show that in dreams, the brain can keep working on problems and look for new answers. However, it's important to understand that not every dream has a deep meaning or tells the future. Most dreams are just a natural part of how the brain works. They show our feelings, memories, and inner processes. But sometimes dreams are exactly what help a person understand themselves better. They can show hidden fears, wishes, or inner struggles. And maybe that's why people have tried to understand dreams for thousands of years. But despite all the scientific discoveries, one thing stays the same. Dreams continue to be one of the most mysterious functions of the human brain. And perhaps the most amazing part of this mystery is that every night our mind creates a whole universe inside our own head. After decades of research, scientists still can't give a final answer to one simple question. Why do people dream? We know that the brain stays active during sleep. We know there are different stages of sleep, especially REM sleep, when the most vivid dreams happen. We know that during sleep, the brain processes emotions, memories, and information. But all of this only explains part of the puzzle. Some scientists think that dreams help the brain sort through memories and make them stronger. Others suggest that dreams let the mind deal with emotional experiences and lower stress. There's also a theory that dreams help the brain practice for possible dangerous situations. According to this idea, in a dream, the brain is like it's training a person's reactions to threats. That's why many dreams might include chases, dangers, or unexpected events. But there's another interesting idea. Some brain scientists suggest that dreams might just be a side effect of the brain's complex activity during sleep. When neurons light up in different parts of the brain, our conscious mind tries to put these signals together into a story. And that's how a dream is made. But even today, no single theory explains all parts of dreaming. For example, why do some dreams feel so full of symbols? Why do people or places we haven't thought about in a long time sometimes show up in our dreams? And why can a dream sometimes feel more emotional than real life? The answers to these questions are still unknown, but that's what makes the topic of dreams so amazing. Because even with all the great progress in science, the human brain is still one of the most complex and mysterious systems in the universe. And maybe every night, when we close our eyes and fall asleep, our mind keeps exploring this inner world. A world of pictures, feelings, and hidden meanings. A world we call dreams. If you found it interesting to learn why we dream and what theories scientists have, please give this video a thumbs up. Tell us in the comments, what's the weirdest dream you've ever had? Sometimes these kinds of stories help us understand just how amazing the human mind can be. And if you enjoy videos about the mysteries of the mind, psychology, and the puzzles of the human brain, be sure to subscribe to the Just Think channel so you don't miss new episodes. See you in the next video.